Good evening, everyone. My name is Tristan Bailey. I ended last year with a 4.7 GPA. As a sophomore, I verbally committed to Notre Dame for my sport, and I don't understand fractions. I don't know how to type. I'm in a Spanish class a grade above mine, but don't even ask me how to tell you what the weather's like. I look like the perfect student on paper, but the truth is, I'm not actually sure that I'm retaining what I'm learning. So, what happened? Did I cheat? Is ChatGPT earning my A's for me? Well, I mean, no AI could get a grade like this. So, the real question is why? Why am I not retaining the things that I've spent years learning? Well, it's not the teacher's fault. I mean, they just don't hand out A's for just coming to class. Like, trust me, I've asked. So, what is happening? Well, let me start from the beginning. When I was little, I loved to learn. I mean, I loved to learn. What fourth grader do you know who checks out the original version of the Odyssey and finishes it within a week? And let me tell you the truth. I used to ask to get out of class to do math. I know, I'm crazy. I'm insane. But we had a teacher in elementary school who would take students out of class who were struggling with math, and I used to pretend like I needed help just so I could do more math problems. But as I got older, I found myself striving less for that knowledge that I craved when I was younger. I found myself rewriting papers that I knew my teachers would like. And I found myself not wanting to expand on topics that we had learned in class. But the truth is, I didn't stop learning. I just started learning how to succeed. And I'm not the only one with this problem. In 1968, Dr. George Land, a general systems scientist, partnered with NASA to test the divergent thinking creativity of 1,600 American school students as they went through the education system. They tested these students by giving them problems and testing the creativity of their solutions. From ages 4 to 5, they found that 98% of students tested at genius levels of creativity. At age 10, that number dropped to 30%. Age 15, 12, and adulthood, less than 2% retained their genius creativity levels. So, is the system that's supposed to foster our learning and help us learn how to create solutions actually hurting us? Well, to find the answer to that problem, we have to talk about the American school system. The modern-day school system teaches us to prioritize safety over imagination, fear over creativity, and performance over big thinking. I mean, millions of students today are in classrooms being told to sit still and listen to instructions by their teachers for hours at a time. Imagine being a kid in class with all your friends and you aren't even allowed to talk to them. I'm sure everyone in this room has been around a 6-year-old. It's impossible to keep them quiet. So what do teachers do? They reward them. They reward the good students, the quiet students, the ones who don't interrupt. At first, it's stickers, candy, extra recess. But then it becomes good grades, scholarships, honor rolls, and college acceptances. Eventually, students stop asking how to learn and start asking how to win. This, along with the pressure of letter grades, equates to how students stop their desire for learning. When lessons are based on exams, students don't study to learn. They study for the test, and after they take it, they realize that they forgot everything that they have just learned. I mean, everyone here has taken a test, and probably no one remembers their last test that they've taken. Students believe failure can, even when that just means receiving a B, can lead to detrimental damage for their future. This does not create a learning environment. It creates a factory that takes in creativity and spits out obedience. When bad grades feel like failure, students are afraid to challenge themselves. They pick the teachers who are the easier graders. They pick the easier classes, and they don't strive for that knowledge that they once did when they were children. This leads to students not wanting to create challenges for themselves, but challenges are how you learn. I mean, failing and changing your perspective because of it is how you truly retain knowledge. Psychologists call this the difference between divergent and convergent thinking. Convergent thinking is what we're taught to prioritize in schools. It's receiving answers and measuring them based on the question. Divergent thinking, on the other hand, is when you are receiving a question and create your own answer based on imagination and creativity. When students are taught to create answers while trying to measure them, it creates a mental block that limits brain function. But when students are allowed to explore, create, and imagine, it sends signals to neurotransmitters that boost motivation, focus, and overall success. But when these brain functions are blocked, along with the rising pressure for success, it can create detriments to our mental health. In China, schooling is heavily exam-focused, with the ultimate success being determined by the Gaokao exam, which is a university entry exam. Students obsess over this exam. They spend 12 to 16 hours a day studying for it, along with their 10 plus hours of schooling. And that pressure doesn't even stop at the high school level. Even when they get to university, a Peking University professor found that 40.4% of his first-year students said that they feel like life is meaningless. Although the Chinese exam is an extreme approach, this issue is global. The National Institute of Health found that 30 to 40% of students globally experience academic anxiety. But rising student anxiety, burnout, and creative decline are not individual failures. They are systemic outcomes. I'm here to shift the blame from the individual to examining the system. When we focus ourselves on examining the individual education of each student, we can build a better future. Education is powerful. It can uplift an individual as much as it can uplift a nation. If we focus on raising students who are able to think creatively and build solutions on our own, we can build a better future for everyone. So, how do we do this? Number one, no tests. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but we actually need to reduce the amount of standardized tests in schools. In Finland, they have no standardized tests. I know this sounds crazy, but success is measured individually by their teachers and ultimately measured by the Ministry of Education. And Finland is able to do this while still remaining one of the top-ranked education systems in the world. If we reduce the amount of standardized tests, we can reduce that fear of failure that many students have, and we can prevent teachers from modeling a curriculum towards the test, which allows students to learn not just to get the grade, but to learn for the sake of knowledge. Number two is shifting the focus from letter grades to feedback. When we stop obsessing over the C or the D that we are just handed back, we are actually motivated to try and better ourselves. I mean, I'm sure everyone has gotten a bad grade on a paper or a test, and the first thing that you think isn't, oh, let me see the notes that my teacher wrote. It's, how fast can I hide this from my parents? So if we stop the focus on those letter grades and start the focus on the actual feedback given by teachers, students can stop obsessing over that failure that they were just handed back and start actually improving their learning. Step number three is contact time. In my old school, I had 30 minutes of contact time before lunch where we can meet with teachers and talk about tests, get started on homework, or just ask questions about stuff we did in class. And instead of students using this as 30 minutes of extra lunchtime, I actually found that the majority of them were in their teachers' rooms asking questions. This is because students really want to ask those questions, but they might not have the resources or the time to do so during lunch or after school. Allowing them these 30 minutes of contact time gives them the connection that they need with their teachers, and it lets students ask those questions that they may be afraid to in class or may not have had time to. This gives students ability to connect with their teachers and ask the real questions that they need to. My last suggestion is something that I heard in a TED Talk by Peter Hutton, but I believe it needs to be reinstated. It's reforming homework. As a student athlete, I do admit that homework is my least favorite part of school. It takes away time that I could be using to practice my sport, hang out with my friends, or just catch up on sleep, okay? If we reform homework, homework as an idea is a good thing. I mean, you get to reinstate what you have just learned in class. But in reality, students are at vastly different learning levels. This leaves some students who already know the lesson thinking that homework is just busy work, and other students so confused that they don't even know where to start. And the truth is, both of those students are probably just going to look up the answers. So, if we give students a certain amount of time that they need to dedicate to learning at home per week, they can watch videos, review packets, or just focus on overall learning that they didn't have time to do in school, which can really help reinstate what they've learned in class rather than just giving them a packet of something that they don't even know what to do with. So, when I started this talk in January, when I started researching it, I was a student who learned how to win. I was a student who played the game. But as I've tried to reform my learning, I have stopped memorizing countless vocabulary words for Spanish and started talking with my Spanish-speaking friends. And even though I've gotten laughed at one too many times for my liking, my Spanish speaking has improved immensely. And instead of memorizing countless facts for history, I start thinking about the human experience, how the human experience has changed through millions of years of human history. Even though these are not the shifts that I've talked about in my talk, this has deeply improved my overall understanding. So I'll leave you with this. If a student can get a 4.7 GPA, get admitted into a top university, but still feel like they're not actually learning, what are we truly measuring? It's time that we stopped mindlessly taking in information and started searching for it. Thank you.